All right. Welcome to Pompeian Charities International's first webinar. This is Jacob Pompeo. I'm the Executive Director of Pompeian Charities International, which I'll refer to as PCI for the rest of the webinar. And today we're going to discuss the factors that you need to consider when gardening to maximize your results. And by the end of this webinar, we're going to have a gardener's journal started for each of our viewers. And I'm going to give you all a few items to record in your farmer's journal, or farmer's almanac is also referred to. And at the end of the video, we will also provide you information on where to go to learn more about building your garden, and we'll even give you a link to a program that we started here at Pompeian Charities International to help you get started with building your own home garden. And we'll also have a special offer for those of you who remain with us till the end. So before we get started, I want to go ahead and make sure everyone can see me and hear me. If you guys don't mind just commenting in the chat box below, which is going to go directly to me, that you can hear me and see me. And if you don't mind also commenting on where you're tuning in from. And once we get a few people telling us that our audio and visual quality is coming through, then we'll go ahead and continue. All right, looks like we're doing good. Thank you. Wow. There's some people tuning in from the Middle East, some in London. A lot of us are here in the United States. I'm in Colorado, for those of you who were unfamiliar with that. Wow, fantastic. So we have quite an eclectic group here. All right. Well, since everyone seems to be able to hear me and see me okay, well, if you're having a hard time hearing or seeing me for some reason, try to reconnect, maybe refresh, exit, and rejoin the meeting. That may help you. Christy, looks like you're having some connection issues there. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a few seconds to reconnect. All right, perfect. Looks like everyone's here. So I'm going to show you all your current reality, which is the Charlie Brown Christmas tree. I'm sure many of us can relate to putting in hours and hours of labor trying to grow something beautiful and fantastic like a Christmas tree, and your results come out a little less than what you had hoped for. This is a prime example of the current reality that a lot of people are facing, and we can take you from this reality to a much more desirable one, which looks a little bit like this. Now, this is the reality that I want each and every one of us to have in our own backyards. Look at all of that bountiful harvest, so much food, so much abundance, so much prosperity. I guarantee whoever owns this orchard is a happy, healthy, and possibly even financially stable individual, which is all different aspects that our garden can provide to us. All we have to do is put in the time and effort, and we can even supplement the time and effort we put in by utilizing technique. So the more technique that we instill into our backyard, the less work we actually have to put into our backyard. So like this orchard here, this individual who owns this property likely doesn't even have to sprinkle the garden with water because they already have an irrigation system, or maybe there's a channel of water running through the property. So they literally planted these trees in the right spot and they come out once a year to harvest. That's it. They don't have to pesticide, spray, or anything in between, as long as you know exactly what to do, how to do it, and the steps to take, which we here can definitely help you with. So first I want to also tell you guys that it is okay if you want to stay at the Charlie Brown Christmas tree level. There's a reason why. It's one of the most famous trees. You know, it's cute, it's quaint, but it's not very abundant or prosperous. You know, we here at Pompeian Charities International, we are all about prosperity and thriving. So I want you all to strive for abundance instead of comfort. And let's go ahead and bring you guys back to my face here. All right. And so now I guess we'll go ahead and jump right on into the content for you guys. The first thing I want everyone to do is go and grab a pen and paper. That's right. We're going to do a little bit of work on this webinar, but don't worry, I won't make it difficult for you. So if everyone can go ahead and grab a pen and paper and let me know in the comment box when you are ready to move on to the next step. Okay, perfect. Raj has his pen and paper ready. Ben, Carla, awesome. Great. I'm glad you guys are excited to get into this. Wow. Fantastic. All right, we're going to give everyone just a few more moments here to grab their pen and paper so we don't leave anyone behind. All right. So now I want you to write at the top of your paper, Farmer's Almanac or Farmer's Journal or Gardening Journal. Tomato. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to put a T-chart on this piece of paper. And I want you to give a generous amount of space to the T-chart because we're only putting this T-chart on a paper. And I want you to have 3 columns on your T-chart. So I'm going to walk you over to my whiteboard here and give you an example of what I want your T-chart to look like. And so when we get started, we're just going to draw 3 lines like so. And you can shade this box out. I'm not going to put anything there. And now here I want you to write sun, light, and over here we'll put wind. And now on this column here, we're going to fill in these items. So for people trying to garden inside their home, we're going to write down living room, master room, kitchen, guest bathroom, garage, any room that you might have a plant in inside your home for those indoor gardeners. For the outdoor gardeners, we're going to write down the north side of the house, the east side, west side, south side of the house. And you can go more in depth, but this is just a general idea of what you want to consider. All right. Once everyone's ready to move on from there, Then we'll go ahead and continue. All right, you guys are following along quick today. Wow, great. Okay, so we'll move on to the next portion here. And so for sunlight, we're going to want to record the hours that the sun hits the south side of the house. So the sun rises at 6 a.m. on the east side of the house, and then at 9 a.m., it moves over to the south side of the house, where it hits until 11 a.m., and then it moves on to the west side of the house until the sunset at 6 p.m. Now, these are important factors to consider because every individual plant, no matter what plant it is, requires some amount of sunlight. And this light can be direct, can be indirect, and some plants even require like not direct light, not even indirect light, but they actually require like a cold, dark place where there's maybe some ambient light that makes its way to the plant, but very little. And so depending on which plants you decide to grow, it's going to be very important on knowing where the sunlight hits and what times of day the sunlight hits the different areas around your property. Because if we have a plant in a pot, well, we might have to now rotate that pot around the property so it stays in direct, constant sunlight all day long and it's never losing that warmth. And that could be for tropical plants that need all day sunlight, and maybe you're somewhere like I am here in Colorado where it gets cold when the sun moves. So you got to actually keep that tropical plant if you want to grow it here in an off climate such as Colorado. Then you have to rotate the plant with the sun, or find one prime place in the middle of the sunlight's path that gets the optimal amount of sunlight. So it'll have a window this big of sunlight instead of a window this big of sunlight. And then vice versa. If you have a plant that grows here in Colorado naturally, then it may actually not like to have direct sunlight all day, every day. And so you might want to actually put, say, a palm, or not a palm because we're in Colorado, but you may want to put a tree in front that's able to take direct sunlight, and then put this plant in the shadow of that tree so that it'll get the sun when it hits here. It'll be given a break during the hot part of the day here. And then when the sun moves over here, it'll begin to hit the plant that's behind the tree again. And so there's all sorts of strategic planting and arranging when it comes to utilizing the sunlight. And so for those of you indoors, the same thing, except you may have to move from window to window instead of around the property. And now I want to go ahead and move us into our second category of our T-chart, which is wind. And wind is so vital. People overlook this all the time. I myself greatly overestimated the importance that wind plays in the environment and how dramatic of an effect it'll actually have on the plants, on everything that occurs in the growth cycle on your property. And for those of you who are indoors, the equivalent of wind is going to be if there's an air conditioning unit, or say an AC outflow, an air conditioner outflow vent, maybe a ceiling fan, or a window that you like to keep open. These are important things to consider because plants need oxygen. And when I was ignorant to the fact that wind is an important variable, I had all of these lovely plants that were growing and sprouting, And once they started to reach maturity, what began to happen is, well, they started to look a little bit like this guy. You see how the tree has that curve to it? Well, that curve comes from high wind, high, hard, harsh, cold wind blowing all day, all night, just really hard environment for a plant to grow straight up into the sky. And so it grows curved like this because the wind has blown it like that, constantly pushing it that direction. And you see how it's so windswept, it's almost going to the ground, which is an extreme example of how dramatic wind can affect your plant. You don't want a tree to bend over like this. You want a tree to stand straight up and provide shade and look a lot more healthy than this guy. And so to go back to our T-chart, we're going to want to write down factors such as so if we're outside, is this area protected from wind? Which in the north side of our house does not get sun or wind because it's covered by trees, it's covered by shrubs and plants, it's covered by the sides of buildings. So wind goes around it, so it's protected. So here's a great place to grow for plants that are weak in the trunk and cannot sustain a high impact from wind. Now we have to also document where we're exposed to high winds at, such as on our south side and west side of our property. High winds hit these spots every day, and I could take you outside right now and show you the effect that this has, and it's dramatic. And actually, if I can switch our camera view, I may just go ahead and show you all while we have a moment. All right, so you see how beautiful tree here. We have a beautiful property, so much abundance. So we're protected from wind all on this side because we have trees. However, here it begins to open up, and this is where the wind starts to really flow into the property from. It really likes to cut in from here, and it scrapes across this pretty intensely. And as you can see right there, in the center of our field, we have two trees that are supposed to be as big as these guys. But because the wind is constantly devastating these trees, they're so small, and they're almost even dead. But that guy in the middle there was able to make it. But these two on the sides aren't doing as well. And that's just from wind and then also sunlight hitting all day, every day. Sun comes up from here, goes around, down over here. So we're getting sunlight all day here. And so that's another variable that may have toasted this tree in particular, is the sunlight constantly baking it, constantly coming in. And now it's just a little shrub down here. The whole upper half died because the wind and the sunlight just wreaked havoc on that. And so I don't want you guys to have 50 years go by and have your trees look like this. We want trees that look like this guy right here. Beautiful willow tree. That's what we want. 100 years old, more, 100 feet tall or more, and a great piece of addition to our property, and it's a great piece of addition to the environment. We've had mountain lions in there in that tree. We've had owls in the tree, and all sorts of fantastic creatures come to the property because we're facilitating life for them. And we kind of have a little bit of a park here. And you can turn your property into a park too. It doesn't your property can be 1 acre, and you can make that 1 acre, it can be half of an acre. And in a half of an acre, you can layer so many plants together that you have an abundance of crops, except you're having crops from dozens of different plants when you layer them on top of each other versus just having one corn plant, one tomato plant. You can have a tomato plant planted with a bean plant, and around that you can have garlic. And now you've got 3 things that are edible: beans, tomatoes, and garlic, growing in 1 square foot. And that's a little bit more advanced of a technique of permaculture, which is plant layering. And that's something we'll be talking more on in our blogs and in the future content that we produce. However, right now I would like to go back into our main topic here, which is our Farmer's Almanac. And at this point, I think it's safe to say that you have enough information to begin your Farmer's Almanac. And I want everyone to go out and write down these effects of wind and sun. And you can even go as far as documenting the temperature change from the sun and the wind during the times of day. You can go as far as saying the seasonal differences that the sun and wind has. So Farmer's Almanac is a great tool, and it's unlimited, the potential that it has. And a lot of these Farmer's Almanacs are even dug up or used as historical record in later years when people come back to look at things and say, oh, Joe or Christie over there in London has, say, a fantastic garden. They've been growing plants for 50 years. Their family farm is doing fantastic. We want to know what they did, how they did it, and what variables they considered. So someone may actually even buy from you the opportunity to look into your Farmer's Almanac just to get that insight. Because that insight, all of that experience, those numbers, they're so particular and unique that they give so much value to individuals who know what they're looking for and what they're looking at. So please, everyone, make your Farmer's Almanac. That's your homework. And well, I think for now, I'll go ahead and leave that as your work for the event. And if there's anyone who has questions, I see we have some questions coming in here. Please just go ahead and keep loading the questions up, but I'm not going to answer any of them until the end of our webinar, which we're getting close to. I believe we're almost at 25 minutes, and I only have 40 minutes for you guys today because I'm actually going on to a podcast interview immediately after this. So please bear with me. I'll try to get to as many questions and answers as we can. And I'm just scrolling through some of these questions here you guys have. This is great. Thank you all for the response. No, the questions are only coming to me directly, so no one else is able to see these, for those of you trying to find them. Okay. Well, one thing I wanted to mention before we move on from the wind factors is if you're gardening indoors, you may say, why do I need to even think about wind? Well, if you have an air conditioning unit flowing into the room and it's flowing at your plant, that may completely kill your plant, because that wind coming out of an air conditioner unit is conditioned air, so it's going to have moisture conditioned to be cold in that air. So that cold moisture may shock the plant and kill it. especially if it's a constant flow of cold, wet air. Some plants may thrive on that. So you can use this to your advantage, but a lot of plants will also die from this. So you have to know how to play with that. Also, putting a plant in your bathroom may be a good idea because a lot of plants like to soak up from the air the toxins and aromas that exist in a bathroom and convert that into food for themselves. And so a bathroom can be a great environment. However, some bathrooms don't have enough airflow, so they might not be enough oxygen coming into the bathroom. If you have an enclosed bathroom, no windows, and you always keep the door closed so no air is coming in, then maybe you don't want to have a plant there. And as a bonus, I'm going to save you all a lot of time and energy. Always take note of the predators or the animals that are in your immediate area. So say you have a barn cat. Well, cats really, really like to knock down plants and pee in them. They like to dig them up. My mom fosters cats for a adoption center in Florida. And so she's constantly bringing in dozens of cats, nursing them back to health, and giving them out for adoption. And almost every single plant she's had has been completely destroyed because of her cats. I think she's even given up gardening because her cats always find a way, even if she puts the shelf almost towards the ceiling. Somehow a cat ends up on that shelf, knocking the plant down, and all of her work is gone. So there's a good thing to consider there. Maybe your neighbors have cats, so maybe you'll want to put up a mesh at night, fencing at night to protect the plants, like a cage around your plants. So as your plants are beginning to grow and they're still weak and they're not fully rooted and they don't have a big body or like a tree trunk to keep them rooted in the ground, then you may want to protect them at night, especially because at night is when you'll get rodents and critters coming in to try to eat sprouts or things of that nature. So that's why a lot of people sprout inside their houses as well, because if you sprout outside, a lot of bugs and critters love to eat the sprouts. I grew a garden once and had a dozen different plants sprouting in 1 square foot of space, all growing, working together, forming a beautiful biology ecosystem. And then one morning I came out and every plant had been cut down from the root, from where it's coming right out the ground. And what had happened was a little field mouse came by and he ate every single plant down like a weed whacker. And he didn't even finish all of the plant. He just ate it to where the plant died and he got a good taste. And then he went on to the next one, took a bite, killed it, went on to the next one, took a bite, killed it, went on to the next one. And I had no plants left. It took me months to get those things started, find the soil and everything for them. And one field mouse, all those plants were gone. So another reason why your farmer's almanac is important, so you can keep track of these events. You can know, like, if you see a nibble on a plant, then you can write down, this day I saw X plant had what looked like a field mouse nibble on it at X time. And then you can hone down on when that field mouse is actually coming to eat from your garden, and then you can catch them, trap them, and re-release them somewhere else. Or if you have a fully flowing ecosystem, you can capture that mouse and then feed it to a larger animal that you have on the property that survives off of such creatures. So just some food for thought. I know I'm throwing a lot of information at you guys. When I got started into gardening, I couldn't even figure out left from right, up from down. So don't worry. I know this is overwhelming, but that's why we're here to help you guys. And I want to congratulate you because we made it. We're at the end of the webinar. So a special webinar bonus for everyone today. I have placed on sale the new product that we've come out with at Pompeian Charities International. And what this product is a 6-step process to starting your own home garden. We will take you, I personally will take you from having an idea in your head to having plants in soil in the ground or in pots, depending on your preference. And I will even give you the information that you need to go from A to B, B to C, and all the way up to the harvest. So if you guys sign up right now, we're normally offering this program for $46 or roughly 40 some odd dollars. However, right now we're going to be basically just giving this program away just because we here at Pompeian Charities International, that's what we do. We just give away value. We want to help provide the world with prosperity. So we have lowered our price to $27 for you guys, just so you can get some value out of what we've made for you and share it with the world. And also, all of the money that we here make at Pompeian Charities International, a large majority, sometimes even more than what we make, goes to actually helping orphan children and building orphanages around the globe, providing them with food security and shelter and the means of having animals such as goats, crops to eat from, etc. So not only are you getting our product for $20 off, but you'll also be helping build an orphanage or buy farm animals for specifically orphaned and needy children across the globe. So it's a win-win. Even if you don't garden to provide value to your environment locally, you will provide value with the money that you spent on the program by helping kids have a life that don't have one already. So I want to go ahead and get to some of these questions here. But before I do that, I'm going to drop a link into our chat box for you all to follow. And let's see. Aha. All right. I'm going to give you guys the link to the product that I just described, so you all know where to find it. Let's see here. All right, so you guys should have our masterclass link, and if you guys will follow through on that, you will see screen that says enroll now. Go ahead and click on enroll now and input your payment information. You can go through Stripe or PayPal, and we will then be able to get started building your own home garden. All right, perfect. Okay, so a lot of you guys are asking pretty much the same question, which is, well, a lot of you guys are saying that you already have a garden started and that you want to take your garden to the next level. Well, you can actually do that with us, because we haven't announced it yet, but we're going to have a prime program for people who want to take the garden that they have, that little garden you have built right now, and grow it into a massive food forest. Or some people just want to have a giant monoculture crop. But a lot of people are saying, we want to make money, we want to save money. Those are the main things I'm seeing in our chat box. A lot of people want to make money by selling the surplus growth from their garden. And a lot of people are saying that they want to save money by eating the surplus growth from their garden. So if that's what you want to do, then I recommend going into our beginners program, because it'll get you started with your farmer's almanac, and it'll build the foundation that we need to go into the more in-depth topics, such as the upscaling into a food forest or a large scale operation. However, you please feel free to private message me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. I don't know if YouTube has a messenger system, but we're on YouTube as well. And my email, for those of you who want to email me personally, is Jacob Pompeo, my first and last name at the bottom of the screen here, no space. And that's going to be at Proton, TON, mail, MAIL.com. So Jacob Pompeo at protonmail.com. No spaces, all one word. And please feel free to message me if you're interested in our food forest program, or upscaling of your garden program, or look for it on our masterclass page on our website, which can be found at Pompeian Charities International.org. So, all right, I know I kind of jammed a lot of your questions into one nutshell, but we are out of time, and I got to go to our next interview here. So I want to thank you all so much for being with me. I love you all. I love that you all are willing and interested to learn and grow into a new field of study, such as gardening or permaculture, and take your garden to a new level. This excites me. This should excite you. We are going to change the world, starting from our own backyards. So thank you all so much for joining me. And until the next time.